All right, let's jump right in. We hear about it all the time, right? On the news and the papers, economic growth. It's this one big number that can make or break a presidency that moves markets all over the world. But what if I told you that our whole way of thinking about what makes us prosperous is kind of built on a shaky foundation? Today, we are going to unpack the super powerful and, let's be honest, often misunderstood idea of economic growth.
So first things first, let's ask the question that really frames this whole explainer. Why are we so obsessed with this stuff? I mean, every few months, the whole world seems to hold its breath for that one GDP number. Are we up? Are we down? It's like a national report card. But here's the thing. This obsession is actually a really new phenomenon.
Okay, now take a look at this, because this slide tells such a fascinating story. For almost all of human history, the idea that your kids would be way richer than you, well, that was just not a thing. Look at that first number. For over 300 years, from 1500 to 1820, world growth was basically zero, flat, nothing. Then, boom, something happens. The Industrial Revolution kicks in, and all of a sudden, growth becomes the new normal. It just explodes over the last 2 centuries. That's why we're obsessed. We're living in this totally unique period of history that's defined by it.
So that historical context is it's everything. It explains so much. Our whole modern world is literally built on this incredible explosion of economic expansion. But, as we're about to see, the way we've been keeping score might be missing the bigger picture.
And this brings us right to the main event of our explainer today. We use this thing called gross domestic product, or GDP, as our main yardstick for progress. But what if that yardstick isn't just a little off? What if it's measuring the wrong thing entirely?
And this really gets to the core of it, doesn't it? Just because GDP is going up, that doesn't automatically mean our lives are getting better. Think about it. GDP doesn't care about the quality of our healthcare, or the state of our planet, or how good our schools are. You know, a country could chop down every single one of its forests, and that would actually boost GDP. But would anyone seriously argue that society is better off? Of course not. What we're all really after is something more like well-being or happiness, and GDP is just a very clumsy tool for measuring that. And listen, this isn't just some philosophical thing to debate. The standard way we measure GDP per person is starting to cause real problems, especially in countries where the population is getting older. Let me show you a really powerful example that just completely changes the story.
Okay, this is where it gets absolutely wild. For decades, right, the story we've all heard is that Japan's economy is stuck in the mud. It's stagnant, especially when you compare it to the US. And if you look at the standard GDP per capita, well, yeah, that story seems to check out. But Japan's population is aging, fast. So what happens if we tweak the measurement just a little bit and look at GDP per working age adult instead? The entire narrative flips on its head. Suddenly, Japan's growth looks almost the same as the US's. It's not that their economy is stagnant, it's that their workforce is shrinking. It just goes to show you, the metric you choose creates the reality you see.
So if our measurements are kind of tricky, what about the engine itself? You know, what actually makes the economy grow in the first place? For a long time, economists had a pretty simple answer.
So the old model, the classic way of thinking, basically said that growth comes from 2 things. More workers, that's labor, or more stuff like machines and factories, that's capital. But that never quite explained everything. The new model, championed by economists like Paul Romer, added the secret sauce: technology and new ideas. It's not just about having more people and more tools, it's about finding better, smarter, more innovative ways to use them. That's the real engine of modern growth: innovation.
But innovation can feel like this big, abstract word. So let's get concrete. Let's talk about 2 hidden drivers of innovation, 2 unsung heroes that you probably use every single day without ever thinking about their massive economic impact.
So our first unsung hero is the humble technical standard. I know, it sounds kind of boring, right? But think about it. Every time you connect to Wi-Fi, or you use your credit card, or you see one of those giant shipping containers on a truck, you're using a technical standard. It's just a set of rules that everybody agrees to follow so that so they just work together.
So why are they such a big deal for growth? Because standards basically take all this complicated tech knowledge and turn it into a public good. It's like a recipe that anyone can follow. And this lets new technologies spread like wildfire. Instead of every company having to reinvent the wheel, they can just build on a shared foundation. And that, of course, speeds up innovation for everybody. Our second unsung hero is open source software. You've probably heard of this. It's software where the basic recipe, the source code, is out there for anyone to see, to use, and to make better. We're talking about things like the Linux operating system or a huge chunk of the software that literally runs the internet. It's this gigantic, ongoing, collaborative project.
And just like with standards, this is not some small niche idea. The economic impact is so huge that economists are now actually building open-source software directly into their big macroeconomic models for entire continents. They've realized you simply cannot understand modern growth if you ignore this massive, shared pool of knowledge. So, all of this brings us to our final and, maybe our most important question. If new ideas are the fuel for our prosperity, what happens if we start to run out of them? And let me tell you, this is a huge debate happening among researchers right now. So in 2023, a really high-profile study in the journal Nature basically dropped a bombshell. These researchers looked at millions and millions of patents and scientific papers, and they came to this pretty bleak conclusion. Our new ideas are becoming less disruptive. They argued we're getting really good at making small, incremental improvements, but we're not making those huge leaps forward that define the past.
But hang on a second. Doesn't this sound a little familiar? We just saw how GDP can be a flawed way to measure well-being. So, what if the way we're measuring disruption is also flawed?
And that is exactly what a new paper argued just this year, in 2024. These new researchers found that original study might have suffered from some serious data biases. Things like truncation bias, which basically means it takes time for a new idea's impact to show up, and exclusion bias, where some really important foundational patents got left out. Honestly, it's a perfect example of how science is supposed to work. One team puts out an idea, and another team tests it.
And here's the payoff. The result of this correction is just stunning. Once these researchers fixed the biases in the data, the conclusion didn't just change a little bit, it completely reversed. The corrected data shows that the number of highly disruptive, game-changing patents has actually been increasing since 1980. The engine of innovation might not be sputtering out, it might be revving up.
And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. We've seen that how we measure our economy matters a ton. And we've seen that the real engine of growth is new ideas, spread through these amazing unsung heroes like standards and open source. So if innovation isn't slowing down, but is actually speeding up, it just begs the question, what's next? What's the next big disruptive idea that will fundamentally change the way we all live and work? That's the question we're all waiting to see answered.